Hi, everybody. It's Leanne and Stephanie from the Healing Studio. It is already December. Oh my gosh. Looks like we just did this forecast last week. It's been a whole so we are looking at the end of the year's energy. We're kind of giving you an update about what we feel like is going on. Feel free if you're joining us to put in the comments any questions that you may have, and if you or anything you're noticing, we like to know what you think is going on. And you can always do that later if you're watching this later as well. The comments keep going, but I'm just going to throw it out there that we had that nice big hype about November 19th and the age of Aquarius, and I was just talking to somebody the other day who was like, it's going surprisingly smooth. And I guess I sort of agree. I feel like there's a lot of pruning that's trying to happen to our energy fields. Like you can't bring that forward. Like this is not going into your current future. And that I think we don't really like necessarily. I think a lot of us like what we like and know what we know, and we want to stick with what we know. And so the pruning part, I think can be a little uncomfortable depending on how it's going and how much you resist. That was the other thing. Lots of don't resist. But and like the messages have been, at least in the weekly readings I do, the messages have been like, it's newer than, and it's so new you couldn't know what it was. It's so important that you couldn't even know what that importance is. So anyway, I'm gonna throw it to you, Stephanie. What are you seeing?
Well, a couple of things. The first thing I'm seeing is I'm getting a lot of clients coming to me saying they feel stuck. And what I'm seeing is it's not so much stuck in the past or stuck in the old, but like we've been leveling up, and then we plateau. And so people aren't seeing how much growth they've made. They're just seeing that they've reached a plateau. And I feel like there is going to be another big like surge that's going to get us across the plateau. And I've been supporting clients it's kind of like that caterpillar phase. Like I've been supporting clients that we're coming out, we're emerging from the cocoon and letting our wings dry off, but it's not quite time to fly yet, which is why we feel that like we're stuck somewhere.
Yeah, well, and I wonder too if we've just grown so fast so much and we got used to just growing that when we don't grow as fast as we want, or we have we're like still stuck, or like we should keep going. But I mean, I really do think that kind of stopping and recalibrating, strategizing the plan, like what you created from in the past is not what we're creating from now. So it's like if it would be good to just kind of stop and ground into present time strategy. I'm getting a lot of messages about finances too, and that's been interesting because that always kind of freaks everybody out. But like, watch your finances, be careful with your finances. Yesterday in particular, the message was and it didn't matter like if the person was super wealthy or whatever. The message was, watch what you're doing with your money right now. Watch what you're doing.
I got messages to be more mindful. It's not so much like, it's more like just be intentional with where you're placing your money and where you're bringing in money.
Yeah, I think mindfulness of the spending too, like making
That's
sure
what
that
I mean.
making sure you're not just, spending to spend, but that you actually have a purpose, or what the end game is for it. I mean, that's probably always good with money, but more so now than ever.
The other thing I'm seeing a lot of right now is the shadow work. And I've been talking a lot to the Akashic Records about the shadows. And it's just the shadow work that we're doing is looking at the parts of ourselves that either we separated from source, or we felt like we had the illusion of somebody else separating us from source. But the main thing is we're looking at where our separations are from each other, from our connection to the divine, from our connection to source. And the light, it's just like fill it in with light and reconnect. That was the big message, because I got huge downloads about what the shadow work is all about. And I think one of the big messages I got is when we're doing so much shadow work, it's like we're in a big long tunnel, and we finally get our eyes accustomed to the dark, and we can see the shadows in the dark. So we're like, okay, I know what that is, and I'm familiar with it, and I know what that is. But once we get to the end of the tunnel where it's light, a lot of times the light is really glaring. And we're like, what is that? And so we kind of retreat back into the shadow because that becomes more comfortable. So it's like allowing to get used to the light. Like once you get to the end of the tunnel, stop, let your eyes adjust to the light, and then step forward with confidence instead of being scared. Like, oh my gosh, what's at the other side of this tunnel?
Yeah, well, and the thing with the shadow work too is that it does bring the stuff that was hidden out into the
Yeah.
known. And sometimes we don't really like to see I mean, it was hidden for a reason because we
Right.
knew that we didn't want to see it.
Right.
So, so that more light than ever, bringing in the idea that you're going to be looking closer at some things that maybe were pretty uncomfortable to look at. So it's not just adjusting to the light, but adjusting to something kind of dark and scary being very easy to see. So I think too, what keeping in mind that we're going into 2025 and that's going to be a whole different energy anyways. Just letting ourselves really acknowledge that, the growth that has happened, especially since 2020, right? It's been crazy 4 years. And, letting ourselves integrate all of that and really just celebrate it too. I mean, sometimes we don't stop and celebrate. We're just like, hurry up, get through. What else do we have to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's kind of a time to be just like acknowledging how far you've come, how far other people around you have come, the things that you kind of endured, survived, become, all the things, and it doesn't have to be big stuff. I mean, right now the guides are like really encouraging me to just be like, I get to wake up in the morning, which sounds really like, okay. But truly, I mean, every day is not promised, right? So,
Right.
so it is kind of acknowledgement of consciousness, life, awareness, and what that can bring. Also, I think now more than ever that the law of attraction's kind of moving really quickly. So whereas we could have put something out like, oh, I want this, and then maybe 10 years later we get it. It's coming faster, but the flip side of that is when our fears are what we're saying out loud. When we are saying out loud, I am afraid of this, or what if this happens, or whatever, those are manifesting just as quickly as our desires.
Right. Right.
So that's like, be careful.
Yes.
And I'm just as, I feel like I just as much should have that going on for myself as much as I'm seeing it for my clients.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. So you're all magic. Just remember to tap into your magic.
right. Well, and I would say too, sometimes there's a theme of body ailments. So you being somebody who works on bodies often, are you noticing any specific things that are going on right now?
I think it's just a lot of vague, like, oh, my shoulders and low back, which is really, really normal. A lot of digestive stuff, it's like a lot of stuff people can't really point to.
Okay.
I don't know, it's kind of in here somewhere. So it seems to be a lot of like unnameable body parts.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely noticing that for like chakra wise, a lot of third chakra. So that would be digestion. Third chakra being about setting boundaries, making choices, being authentic, knowing who you are versus what everybody else is asking you to be, that kind of stuff.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, I feel like there's a lot more room for magical things to start to happen too. I'm definitely watching for the unusual that might be arriving soon. I don't know what, but I feel like there's something big
I
coming.
have noticed that even though there seems to be a lot of collective fears, on the individual, a lot of people are really doing really well. There are people who are struggling in one area, but doing really well in another area.
Mhm,
you
mhm.
know, like things they've been wanting for a long time coming into their lives, like relationships or jobs or things like that. Like, you know, all of the releasing that we've been doing has really been allowing for good things to come in, you know, big
Right.
shifts to happen, and big positive shifts are happening, as well as, you know, we can focus on all the scary stuff, but all the big, you know, positive shifts are happening for people too. So there's a lot.
Well, as you let stuff go, you bring stuff to light, you make more room for things
Right.
to come. So
Yeah.
that, yeah, and you know, the vibration or the frequency that you're working with brings different kinds of things to you as well. So if you can, you know, the light council that I work with is always talking about the power of our attention, and like what we pay attention to is where things go. And if we don't like the way the world's looking, what are we paying attention to, and how can we shift our focus and pay attention to what we want? And that's not to say just like put your head in the sand and pretend stuff isn't happening. I mean,
Yeah.
you can see what you don't like, but then look for what you do and make more awareness about that, make more attention about that, make more of that available to you than what you don't want, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and look for where things are changing for the positive. You know, there are big positive shifts happening around, and join those movements,
Yeah.
join that energy, join that wave.
Yep. All right, I think we've shared it, unless you guys have any questions before we end up. It's the last month of the year, and I think it's always a good time to be in just kind of reflection, gratitude, awareness, um, because it's a good way to set yourself up for the next.
Yeah.
Get
I
that out
love
of
the thing I love about this time of year is so many holidays are focused on light.
Yeah.
Lights, candle lights, you know.
Yep. All right, everybody, go be amazing. Bye.
Bye.